Orale Batos, this is Okudowski of We Are Changed.org, and holy cow, there's a lot of hooey, nonsense, malarkey, disinformation, and propaganda out there right now, which we're going to be breaking down in this video, as well as talking about the supposed second wave in China, as right now gyms are being shut down in Beijing, and a city with 10 million people has just been put in lockdown in China right now. And we're going to get into that, plus a lot more in this video that's supported by you and wouldn't exist if it wasn't for you. And one easy way you could support us is by checking out our store, cleanhealthyhappy.com, which we have an affiliate deal with. They have some in-demand, good quality supplies. I personally use them, I like them, and I think you will too. So definitely check out cleanhealthyhappy.com. And before we get into it today, I just wanted to remind everyone that, of course, there is a big disconnect when it comes to the mainstream media, or as YouTube calls them, authoritative sources, puts out content like this that is just totally out of touch with reality, elitist, and just snobby. And many of these limousine liberals and right-wing establishment shills don't work for you or for your benefit. Quite the contrary, they make a business off of you. And when you look at the consolidation of media, you see the same multinational corporations, conglomerates, centrally controlled, which wants to give you the, quote, illusion of choice. And there really isn't a choice. It's just a lot of propaganda, disinformation, and as I call it, hooey. And I think that's exactly what's happening right now between many personalities and politicians fighting and attacking each other. Specifically also the latest attacks on Donald Trump, which I'm going to talk about in context because there is some legitimate criticism of Donald Trump that could be levied against him, but there's not. There's absolute nonsense criticism that doesn't affect anyone and what just amounts to or gaffe and mistake. And that's the game that's being played here. As the White House just decided to scrap its briefings and press conferences, something that, of course, the public relies on to get information about the latest situation that we're dealing with. And now we're hearing that this whole press conference is being scaled back, including the task force that was associated with it. And according to many, this is happening because of the disinfectant comment, which again, this whole situation about has just spiraled completely out of control and is an utter distraction. Yes, the president made some comments about disinfectant. Yes, there is some disinfectant therapy out there that medical professionals and doctors do use internally inside of the body. This is a big nothing burger. For some reason, the mainstream media is taking it very seriously, as well as Donald Trump that is deleting some of his tweets, which of course is a sign of weakness and a little ridiculous, to be quite honest with you, especially with the circumstances and situation that not only the United States but the world is in right now. Now again, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. He definitely is in a very difficult position. If he opens up the economy too quickly and people get hurt, he gets blamed. If he continues to call for the lockdown and state governors continue to do that, people will get hurt and he will get blamed. There's a lot of people arguing that the economic ramifications will be more severe than the viral ones. And I've been saying that from the very beginning of this. And when it comes to the larger economic ramifications and decisions, there not only isn't any cohesion inside of the White House, there's also a lot of malarkey and misdoings, especially by former Mr. Goldman Sachs, Steve Mnuchin, the actions by the Federal Reserve that are benefiting the banking industry, hedge fund companies. And when you look at that situation, when you look at the larger economic transfer of wealth, when you look at the moves that are being made right now, the keys given to a former Goldman Sachs guy, when you look at that, that is something that does deserve scrutiny, that does deserve attention, that does deserve all these articles and videos and pundits going ape over, but they're not. They're going ape over some statements that yet again don't affect anyone. And again, just even the total lack of cohesion and lack of unison message shouldn't reassure you that everything's fine and dandy, because it certainly is not. We have the Treasury Secretary telling you that everything is hunky-dory and rosy with the U.S. economy. while we have a White House economic advisor talking about how grave of a situation that we're in that is akin to the Great Depression. So yeah, lots of disorganization and disharmony in the White House, as of course there are larger economic crimes happening right now that, again, no one is talking about. And while the federal government can't even figure out its messaging, a lot of people are left to figure this out, including governors of separate states that have been making the majority of decisions whether to lock down or not, with New Jersey even recently, a couple minutes ago, announcing that they are extending stay-at-home orders indefinitely. And it's important to note that many of these actions by governors has been met by protests and with individuals just not following them, as Google and Apple have been tracking your information, and they just released new data showing that the majority of Americans are just rejecting these orders by governors and just going out there and living their lives. And many people are finding out that it's very difficult for governments to enforce these laws that were issued by the states. Now, that is the situation here in the United States. Meanwhile, in China, they are taking more of a draconian, totalitarian approach and have now, in some cities in China, outlawed coughing or sneezing and not covering your mouth. Yes, if you're in one of these new Chinese cities that implemented these laws, they are now new uncivilized behaviors that will be fined. And if you don't wear a mask, if you sneeze and don't cover your mouth, you will be fined very heavily or thrown in jail. Of course, very heavy-handed approach, especially compared to the United States, where many people are protesting. And now we're getting some information specifically with the Reopen North Carolina group that one of its leaders has allegedly tested positive for this sickness. Now, if this is true, this will have a lot of serious implications and honestly will give the government to have a more heavy-handed approach next time. This, of course, would even be cheered on by some other individuals who are legitimately scared of the situation. This is one of the reasons why I haven't been promoting these protests, because they could backfire and create a situation where the average person is now demanding more of a totalitarian, draconian approach to this, which again, I do not want. Again, we don't want government to intervene here. We want people to be responsible for themselves, have radical self-reliance and responsibility for themselves, their family members, and the people in their community. What we don't want is government. And we don't want people convinced by the media that we need it, because this will lead to a similar situation that people in China are dealing with, and we don't want that here. Specifically with the protesters, I've been talking to some of them, and I even raised the point that maybe it would be smarter, instead of just protesting, gathering in very large groups and screaming at each other, maybe it would be a lot smarter, rather than doing that, protesting to go to work, rather to just, go back to work, while of course taking precautions out of respect for all the other people out there, which would reassure people's faith in humanity rather than scare them away. And I think that should be the right approach here. Again, you're going to have maybe different comments and beliefs, but if you do, let me know why in the comment section below. But I truly don't see an argument against this. I might be missing something. If I am, let me know in the comment section below. But we definitely don't want to emulate China, that some people believe is going through a second wave of this sickness already. A lot of people are talking about the second wave hitting the fall of this year. But again, many things are very unpredictable with this situation. But it seems like the Chinese are taking it more seriously as they did before, with their latest announcement that they are shutting down gyms in Beijing, and they are locking down a city of 10 million people. Now, this is very interesting because, again, this is a Chinese centralized government that prioritizes the economy over humanity. And right now, they're allegedly making humanitarian moves to save the population, which is very perplexing. And one of the reasons why I've been taking this situation seriously from the very beginning is because of these very stark and aggressive moves by China doing this, which again is unprecedented for them to shut down their economy, especially with the financial system and situation that they are in. So that was very surprising to me, and one of the alarm bells to why I was warning people about this all the way back in January, telling people to take this seriously. And I still think that's the situation. As with previous pandemics, there have been many different waves. This could be the situation here. It could not. We still don't know. With the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, after restrictions were lifted, the cases and deaths doubled after that in their second peak. Another factor to consider is the possibility of this being a bioweapon, which I've been saying strongly from the beginning that this is most likely the case. We don't have enough evidence to prove that yet, but of course a lot of the data suggests that that is a very plausible theory to what is happening now, especially with all the information that we're getting with the correlation of HIV in this and how this sickness attacks specific genomes while completely unaffecting other people with different genomes, which of course all raises the possibility of a genetically engineered weapon meant to go after certain populations, which again is something that the Chinese and US government have been actively working on. So yeah, lots of reasons to not trust the government, to take this seriously, to be self-reliant and independent, especially with the news of the food supply chain that, according to one of the largest food producers in the United States, Tyson, is breaking, as of course their plants are closing. There is billions of dollars of food waste because of mismanagement. And again, I say billions. There's billions of dollars that have gone to waste with fruits, vegetables, and milk. Billions lost because it's just been thrown out. So yeah, as I've been saying from the very beginning, still lot of variables, a lot of things we don't know. Better to be safer than sorry. Better to be self-reliant than not. Make sure you have your storable food. Make sure you have maybe a garden in your window or in your backyard. Make sure you have your supplies. Check out our store if you don't. Don't be filled with fear. Don't be feared with panic. And the best way to do that is to just be prepared. So yeah, that's our message. If you liked it, share it with your friends and family members, because there won't be anything else getting this video out there except for you sharing this video, which is more important than ever. And because you guys do that, because I'm still here, this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on We Are Change.